Welcome back to What's the Dill podcast. Thank you so much for checking in. Thank you for reaching out in past episodes. I've loved to hear from all of you who have reached out and kind of given some feedback on what I've been doing on these episodes. It's been super helpful and great to hear from you. And you might notice if you're watching on YouTube, this is a little bit of a different setup because let's be real, I don't record these in a studio. I record them in my house, more realistically my apartment, so space is at a premium and we're making do with what we got. And this episode, I want to talk about a couple things. One, the season of Lent that we're currently in, and talk about fasting and suffering and a little bit like that, and a story that's kind of changed my perspective this Lent. And then two, I want to introduce a couple segments that are a little more light, a little more easy listening, to kind of be a part of your, everyday experience, listening experience, whether it's commuting, whether it is doing chores around the house. I don't want every subject and every episode to be so dense. I'll say, I know that sometimes it's just nice just to listen to someone talk about something that maybe is in your life. So I want to talk about topics maybe you've seen in the news or that relate to our Christian life. Starting off, Lent is here. We're a week in. How are you doing on everything that you promised? Are you behind? Are you ahead? Did you make sacrifices? Are you already feeling like you're, not having a great Lent? If you are, that's okay. There's a lot of Lent still to go, so a lot of room we can improve. I know for me, I, wrote these list of things that I wanted to sacrifice from and also some added prayers. But one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to not eat in between meals. And I've stayed true to that, no eating in between meals. It's been very hard because your boy loves to eat. And he loves to have snacks too. So it's been hard, it's been really good, and I've been able to reorient myself every day as to why I'm doing this, and it's kind of led me deeper into oh, you know what? Maybe if I pray every time I want to eat, now I'm praying 45 times a day in between meals. So I'm gonna be levitating at the end of this Lent. And I want to bring up a story I read that maybe you all read too. So tragically, there was this earthquake in Turkey and in Lebanon. And there was this story of a survivor. His name is Basel Habkuk. He was in the building, one of the buildings that came tumbling down, and he was in the rubble for 52 hours. And he said he was praying the rosary constantly, asking for Mary's intercession, and he said he knew that if he kept just having the will to survive, eventually someone would try to find him, and he was making a noise with this pipe that he found. For 52 hours, he survived just in this rubble. So what does that have to do with Lent? Well, as I was preparing for Lent, I was thinking about these things are hard if I'm gonna, not eat between meals, and I'm gonna, try to get to adoration, and I'm not gonna do this, and I'm not gonna have alcohol during the week, and whatever it was, I was thinking about these things are hard. What's funny, what I have felt after hearing this guy's story, Basel, is that they're hard, but they're maybe hard and challenging for a purpose. Because what's incredible about fasting, when I do it, when I deny the senses, it actually leaves a lot of room for God in my life and a lot of room for God's voice. I drown out those voices in my head that are asking the questions. Why are you fasting, Pete? Why do you do this? Does this make a difference? When I actually go through with self-denial and these fasting, it actually kind of starves those voices and leaves room for God's voice. And I hear God that says hey, you can do this. This is good. It draws you closer. And it's oh wow, I feel the effects of this. So fasting during Lent, it is hard and challenging, but it's actually for something really, really good. And it helped change my perspective when I read this story about our fellow Christian over there, Basel, because that's hard. Being in rubble for 52 hours, no food, no water, that's hard. That is a will to survive. That is incredible faith to trust that you're going to survive in a dark, dark time. When I think about not eating in between meals, kind of pales in comparison to our dear brother over there who, for a week was laying in rubble in a building. So it actually helped change my perspective about this is not just hard for hard's sake, but this is a small bit of challenge and suffering that actually is really good for me. And very quickly I'm able to see the benefits of denying myself and letting God have room in my heart through some fasting. And I was you know what, man, Sel, you're inspiring me this Lent. you're kind of going to be what my North Star this Lent to be like, hey, like, I can do these challenges. I can rise to it even when it's hard. So that's been what's been on my mind this first week of Lent. That's kind of my meditation, is that like, hey, like, deny the senses, deny the self, leaves room for God, leaves room for God's voice. And it's been really fruitful so far. So let me know how your Lent is doing. Let me know any of the sacrifices you're doing. I love hearing what people are giving up or doing for Lent or doing extra. And now I'm going to jump into a couple new segments. If you like them, let me know. I don't know how they're going to go, but you know what? We're going to keep adjusting and pivoting and finding the right formula for what this is for all of you out there. This first segment is called the Beatitude of the Week. And this is a segment where I want to see stories in the news or hear about people in life who are really living out the Beatitudes and the Christian life, and just give them some shout outs and maybe some stuff that you've seen too. So the Beatitude of the Week this week is Zach Hanson from the band Hanson. Do you remember him? Do you guys remember Hanson? That old song in the 90s, Bop? I mean, I remember being a little kid and hearing that and was like, this is the greatest song that's ever been written in the history of songs. And I have to say, 25 years later, pretty much been proven right on that. I think Bop is still up there with some of the greatest, songs. Vivaldi's Four Seasons, the Beatles, Hold Your Hand, Bop, Hanson. I mean, up to you to decide. But Zach Hanson became a deacon in the Orthodox Church about 2 weeks ago. And I loved seeing that because I could not have told you what the band Hanson was up to if they still did music, haven't heard of anything in the news. And hear that Zach Hanson had this kind of deepening of his faith in his life to become a deacon. I love to see how God works in that way. It's so crazy because you think like, oh, there's these three brothers who have this band, they're all young kids, what journey they could take. The whole world would say, hey, music, fame, fortune, whatever you want, it's at your doorstep. And God moved in his life to be like, hey, I want you to deepen your relationship with me. You're an incredible musician. I want you to use that, but also I want to be in your life. And I'd love to hear more about his story. I couldn't find a ton on like the personal journey of his story, but I'd love to hear about Zach Hanson and his journey, how he became a deacon, and he is the Beatitude of the Week. And this final segment for today is the Acts of the Apostles. And this is going to be a segment where it's going to be shouting out people who are on fire, living out the faith, just like the apostles in the book of Acts. And this week in particular, I wanted to talk about all of the revivals that are happening on college campuses. It's been really incredible to see social media. It's been really incredible to see on social media, Asbury College, which has had this like prayer meeting, this revival that has been going on for a couple weeks straight, like 24 hours a day, and like people's lives are changed, and that has kind of been shown on social media, and those videos have then inspired other college people and college campuses to have their own prayer meetings and revivals that are going on constantly. And then people are like having these revivals in like movie theaters. I saw some people have like a movie theater that started like praying over people in movie theaters. And I think it's really cool because currently it's so easy to say like, oh, like social media, like that's just so bad. And obviously there are some pitfalls of social media, but these people, kids who are praying, and then people who documented it have helped inspired like millions of people to like deepen their faith with God over the past couple weeks. And it's really cool to see God move in that way. There's been a lot of cool moments that I've seen online of all of those college kids out there just living free on their college campus. I don't know when they're going to class. That's one question I had. I'm like, all right, 2 weeks straight, 24 hours a day, y'all are praying. I'm like, are people going to class? Are y'all sending in notes to your teachers? Or I don't know, but I love to hear kind of more of what they're doing out there. And it's really inspired me and kind of let me know that, hey, you know what? God is working in people. Just because the news says the world is terrible doesn't mean that God's not working in people. All right, that's going to do it for me today. Make sure you like, subscribe to the podcast and all of our social medias. Leave me a comment, DM, text me, call me, email me. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let me know what you think of the segments. Let me know what you're doing for Lent. I appreciate everyone who listens, every single person who leaves a comment. I really appreciate it, and it's been so fun to pick this back up. And I've loved doing this. I love recording these, and I hope it's a great part and a bright spot of your day. Talk to y'all soon.